The scene right here just moments ago, the United Nations General Assembly overwhelmingly voting to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And you see there a rare standing ovation in the General Assembly chambers. Also today, the Kremlin conceding Western Moscow kept the stock market closed for a third consecutive continued to slump. With me now to share his insights and expertise, the former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Ivo Daalder. Ambassador Daalder, grateful for your time today. He's also the author of Empty Throne, America's Abdication of Global Leadership. The General Assembly, rebuking Russia. The Kremlin being candid for a very rare way, candid, saying the economic sanctions are taking a dramatic hit. And yet, do you see any evidence that Vladimir Putin will change his behavior?
No, unfortunately, I do not, even though I think the costs are really mounting on him. The Russian Ministry of Defense, as you reported earlier, saying that Russian soldiers are dying in a war that, in fact, is not supposed to be taking place. So the pressure on Putin is real. I think the international community is coming together, condemning this behavior and really putting significant economic pressure on Vladimir Putin. And yet, this is not about the economy in Russia. This is all about Vladimir Putin believing that he has the right to determine what his neighbors can and cannot do. And if they don't want to do what he wants to do, he'll invade them. And that's what we're seeing to happen here right now. It's not a surprise he did this. We knew it was coming. Perhaps the surprise is it's not happening as quickly as he thought. But I have no doubt that we're just at the very, very beginning of a really ugly conflict.
And because of your experience in these matters, your question is, will the West be prepared for a really, really long response if we're going to have a really, really ugly conflict? You wrote this in Foreign Affairs. An effective 21st century update of our containment would consist of three main pillars: maintaining U.S. military strength, decoupling Western economies from Russia, and isolating Moscow. Together, these three elements will steadily increase the cost to Russia. I'm old enough to understand what the word containment means, but that is a Cold War mentality where you are in for a long haul. We in the West sometimes, frankly, just get lazy. How did we win today? That's not what this is about in your view. You think this needs to be a 10, 15-year strategy.
Well, it needs to be a strategy till Putin and his regime are no longer there. That's the ultimate goal. And containment is a policy that the United States adopted back in the late 1940s after World War II, when the Soviet Union was expanding into Eastern Europe. And a senior diplomat, George Kennan, in the Moscow embassy wrote about the importance of counter pressure to Soviet expansionism. We need exactly the same counter pressure. Significant military capabilities to defend our allies in Eastern Europe, a economic decoupling strategy that we're well on the way of implementing in just the week now, and the political isolation of Russia, which we see in the vote in the UN General Assembly. And that pressure over time should lead to internal pressure for change. And it's not about us going in and invading Russia and doing regime change as we've done in the last 20 or 30 years, which, by the way, has been terribly unsuccessful. It's about creating internal stresses in the Russian system that lead to political change from below, from inside, rather than from the outside. That's going to take time. It's going to take not just weeks or months, it's going to take years. And the only way this is going to be successful is if the West remains united and determined to see this all the way through the end, no matter what the cost, no matter what the consequences to our own economies. They're much less than, as President Biden said yesterday in the State of the Union, much less than what we're inflicting on Russia, and of course much, much less than the people of Ukraine are suffering just right now.
Major question as we move forward. Ambassador Daalder will come back and revisit the conversation. I appreciate your time today, sir.